Today, Baltic coasts will follow the route of the old Hanseatic League. Talasso in Travamunda. This is how the healing powers of the sea unfold. Mansions remind of the former wealth of the area. At the Backwaters, one of Germany's best kite surfers is testing the waves. They have spent their entire lives living off the ocean, but a good haul has become rare. The journey starts in Germany's northernmost state and continues through what used to be borderland during the Cold War. We travel east to Wismar and all the way to Rostock. During the Middle Ages, the city of Lubeck used to be the most important trading post in all of Northern Europe. Under the city's patronage, more than 300 trading towns from London to Riga formed an economic alliance, the Hanseatic League. The Hanseatic League controlled the trade from England to Russia. It was the trading of salt that made Lubeck so wealthy. The 500-year-old Holsten Gate, designed in the late Gothic style, still tells tales of that era. It was their ships that brought wealth to the Hanseatic League. Already in the 12th century, the League used sailing ships with one mast only. These ships were faster than any horse and cart on land and could transport up to 200 tons of cargo. Captain Charlie Bruiser has learned how to navigate the old ships, and he rebuilt one of them, inspired by a medieval burial painting.
The Church of St. Mary in Lubeck has got an epitaph on display that dates back to the year 1489. It shows a vessel that has just shipwrecked on a rock.
This votive image was designed as a memorial of a maritime disaster that occurred on Norway's cliff line. More than 500 years later, it served the shipwrights as their construction template. The oil painting provided them with important information about the rigging, superstructures, and the shape of the hull.
What we've done is what you might call experimental archaeology. Imagine picking up a 1,000-piece puzzle at the flea market, and at home you realize that there's only 100 pieces left in the box. Like this, we had to fill in the gaps one by one, and slowly got a picture of its size and the height of its masts.
The shipwrights have to make do with the historic picture. Not a single wreck of the ship's kind has ever been found.
We had to start from scratch, and it took quite a while. But in the end we succeeded, and as you can see, the ship is up and running, sailing splendidly, if I may add.
Even the cannons are fully functional. The ship has been named the Lisa of Lubeck, after one of the town's patrons. The Lisa is seaworthy, even offshore. Charlie has navigated her all the way down to England and endured several storms en route.
It was quite a surprising experience to steer this ship for the first time. Fortunately, we have quite a few modern instruments aboard to tell us the exact wind, not like in the old days where you only had the flags. But you really need some serious manpower on board, whether we are doing these experimental trips or just feel like a nice pleasure trip. There is no way we can do anything with less than 16 men.
There is a saying about team spirit. The man seeking to build a ship with others should not start by collecting wood with them. He ought to awaken their yearning for the vast and endless sea first. This most certainly worked for the Lisa. 350 volunteers helped make the dream come true. Charlie Bruiser went to sea for more than 50 years. For him, the Lisa is the finishing touch to his long and eventful life as a captain. The journey continues along 4 kilometers of steep cliffs until it takes us to Travamunda. The sea causes the cliff to recede by 1 meter per year. At the seaside resort Travamunda, behind the high-rise hotel on the beach, a legendary four-master is anchored, the Passat, one of the last great sailing vessels that used to circle Cape Horn in the old days. Travamunda is known for more than its large ferry harbour. Ailing people flock to the town to receive special treatment, thalasso. Therapist Hendrikje Kruger helps them to find their inner balance. The medicine from the sea is said to heal both body and soul. It enjoyed huge popularity in the 19th century, and today it is being revived again.
Thalasso is everything seaborne. The algae, the seaweeds, the mud and the sea's water.
The term thalasso is the Greek word for ocean. The French doctor Joseph de la Bonnadière from Arcachon coined the term in the 18th century. The sea salt in the thalasso bath is what constitutes the medicinal benefit. It permeates into the somatic cells. The pulverized algae that are blended with the water strengthen the immune system.
Our algae come from Brittany. It's a mixture of red, green and brown algae that have neutralizing and purifying properties. They really stimulate your metabolism and you keep feeling the effect for a long time after the bath is finished.
Algae are one of the oldest life forms on the planet. They've existed for more than 3 billion years. Their nutritional density helps to speed up healing processes in the human body. Often they are used to alleviate chronic pain. Hendrikje used to work on cruise liners until she heard about thalasso. She decided to become a thalasso therapist after she experienced the result of a treatment herself. There is a distinct, sometimes even foul smell to everything that originates from the sea. Despite the stench they exude, algae are frequently used in beauty care. They contain 10 times the amounts of minerals than salt water itself. That's what natural anti-aging is all about.
Afterwards, you get a foil wrap and a heating blanket around you. It's important to lie down for 20 minutes, as the algae will only release their healing properties in the warmth. At the same time, your skin gets moisturized.
Most guests feel reborn, just like a new person after Hendrikje's mud bath treatment. Their skin is as soft as a baby's bottom. Large ferries pass by the horizon. Their destination is Travamunda's Scandinavia Pier. Each year, around 350,000 passengers start their journey via the Baltic Sea from here. Georg Conradi and his crew are setting sail at Travamunda's fishing harbour. The men are accompanying a deceased on his last journey into the Bay of Lubeck. Conradi actually works as a professor teaching architecture, but on the side he keeps an old family tradition alive. He offers a dignified farewell at sea.
My family has been doing this for 3 generations now. We've created a unique ambience by combining a traditional sailing experience with the burial at sea. We like to emphasize that relationship with nature and the elements by using traditional sailing boats powered by wind only.
Benutzung von klassischen, traditionellen Segelschiffen.
The ceremony begins by transferring the ashes to an urn made of paper mache. It dissolves quickly in the water and releases the mortal remains into the ocean.
I feel a strong emotional bond with the sea. Needless to say that as a Pisces, I was already born with an affinity for water. So it's no coincidence that I have found my way back to the ocean now in my middle years.
More and more people are opting for a funeral at sea for practical reasons. It doesn't create any running costs, and no grave maintenance is needed. The sailing boat travels towards the offshore cemetery that is noted on every sea chart.
And the saying goes, sun in the sails and foam by the bow, that is the laughter, that is the life. People choose to be buried at sea because they feel this close bond to the ocean. Ultimately, we all come from the water. Water gives us life, and we all return to the water eventually. It marks the beginning and the end in the circle of life. Farewell, dear Harald. Up and away, travel on with the eternal pounding of the waves.
The deceased man had no family. He worked as a coast guard and was a passionate apnea diver. He had always been drawn to the deepness of the ocean and wished to make it his final resting place.
Every human is an individual and they all deserve a dignified sending off. This is part of our work as nautical undertakers. People need to know that they are in good hands.
With a funeral on land, the deceased's loved ones have a place to go and mourn their loss. For the families of those who chose a burial at sea, the vast ocean serves as a reminder of the person lost. Our journey carries on from Travamunda to western Pomerania. Nothing reminds of the insurmountable border that used to tower here for decades. The infamous Iron Curtain. The old death strip has made way for lush poppy fields that blossom in early summer. Close to the coast, near the small village of Klutz, Baltimore Castle comes into view. It is one of the largest Baroque castle complexes on Germany's Baltic coast. The ensemble, consisting of 13 buildings, was built in 1730 as the ancestral home of the Baltimore family. After World War II, the aristocratic family was expropriated and the castle was turned into a common property. It was used as a home for the aged, but slowly went to rack and ruin. As was common after German unity, the castle was sold for 1 Deutsche Mark, roughly 50 euro cents. However, the investors' plan to create a castle hotel failed. The state had to buy back the estate and is now planning to restore the building. But first, the total damage has to be determined.
My name is Andreas Baumgart, and I'm one of the conservators here at Baltimore Castle. I'm analyzing the building materials here, and I'm researching the building's history. I'm really glad to be working here.
The Baroque castle surprises him time and again. Old buildings hold an endless amount of secrets, but they will only open up their mysteries to the few who linger on here. The building has been altered repeatedly over the centuries. Each carpenter has marked the era of his time. Every wall and every ceiling has its own story to tell. Baumgart is now hoping to find the castle's original character beneath the reworked surfaces.
The tracing of the building history is an incredibly exciting way to explore the past. It's a sort of backward craftsmanship, exposing decade by decade in the building materials all the way back to the original ones used in 1732. What did the room look like? Which colors was it painted in? What was life like in these walls?
The Bodmers were Counts Palatine. Count Caspar was a high-ranked advisor to the King of England. He dreamt of a family estate that would suit his political ranking. Caspar envisioned a magnificent estate at the Baltic coast with all its trimmings. But by today's standards, Baltimore Castle was far from comfortable.
It wasn't half as cozy as people imagine it to be. The rooms have really high ceilings and the windows were single-glazed in the English style of the time. It was really cold as the fireplaces couldn't heat the large rooms properly.
Baltimore Castle is a piece of art that has almost been forgotten. It's the task of Baumgart and his colleagues to awaken the sleeping beauty. The conservator is currently working his way through 15 layers of paint. There are no quick answers to be had. Countless samples will have to be examined to make sure that Baumgart won't fall for the wrong coat of colour, or else the true story of Baltimore Castle will never be told.
A conservator needs endurance and integrity. He needs to be honest with himself and others, both about his findings and his work. Any conclusion you draw needs to be comprehensible and provable. You can't just say, look, all the figures in here had red lips. You can't just pretend this to be the case and run around and draw red lips where they won't belong.
The word Baroque is derived from the Portuguese and describes an oddly shaped pearl. It was originally used as a rather derogative term, but Baroque palaces became all the rage in the 17th century. Marble columns and colourful cherubs adorned the homes at the time. Underneath the white distemper, Baumgart discovers a shade of red on the angel's lips. The last layer is uncovered. It is certain now. Underneath the layer of red colour is nothing but the plastering. The red lips are allowed to be restored now. It is his love for details that defines the brilliance of a conservator.
The marquetry cabinet on the castle's west side is absolutely beautiful. It's a really small room in the middle of the castle. It shines resplendent in the evening sun. I like to think of the Duke sitting there in his leather armchair, maybe smoking a cigar. This is probably the most striking room in the building.
One has to be born with a peculiar kind of curiosity to spend months in an empty, ruinous castle. It is this curiosity to look beneath the surface of things that keeps Andreas Baumgart here. Along this part of the Baltic coast, large herds of fallow deer can be seen. The species initially originated from Asia Minor. The deer were kept in zoos for centuries at most aristocratic courts in Europe. From there, some of them made it into the wild, where they formed the large herds that are annoying farmers today. Mink is one of the most endangered mammal species and has almost gone extinct in Europe. Their soft, water-repellent fur led to their doom. Animal rights activists are now trying to release minks into the wild again. Many songbirds, such as the tree pipit, spend the summers on the Baltic coast. On the lush meadows, yellow wagtails can be spotted among crested larks and the red-backed shrike. The journey carries on along the Baltic coast to the seaside resort Boltenhagen. Western Pomerania, in Germany's northeast, sports 4,000 kilometers of avenues. The oldest trees are 250 years old. Boltenhagen is renowned for its flat sandy beaches and blue lagoons. This makes it a popular holiday destination for families with children. Ever since the day that the Duke of Brodten had first put his feet on this beach, the dreamy fishing village has drawn tourists to its shores. It is up to lifeguards like Elisa Kostura to ensure that the fun in the water won't be marred by accidents. People underestimate the sea's power. Every year, almost 500 people drown on Germany's shores. This is why Boltenhagen Beach is lined with 6 lifeguard towers.
When I look through my binoculars, I think, who's sitting on a lilo? Is it just little kids? Will they be able to get back to the beach by themselves? Must I go and get them? And if someone is swimming too far out, I ask him to come closer again. And if he managed to do so on his own.
As a lifeguard, Elisa needs to spot the dangers before they become apparent for anyone else. The lifeguards here have already saved 4 people's lives this year, 3 of whom were children.
The Baltic Sea can be very dangerous at times. There may be strong undercurrents that drag you off. Once you feel the pull and begin to panic, a wave may wash over you, causing you to swallow water on top of that. The offshore wind is a real danger too. Kids playing on a lilo may not notice drifting further and further away from the beach.
The lifeguards have a speedboat in which they can dash across the bay to get to emergencies in the fastest time possible. From here, they also have the best view to control the beach and have an eye on those who ventured far off the shore. When there is a strong offshore wind, the lifeguards collect anything that has drifted away from the shore: balls, lilos and rubber toys. Like this, they get them back to the beach before the owners start going after them on their own. On countless incidents, lifeguards had to pull out fathers struggling with a strong current to save their children's favourite toy. And this is how little Quentin gets his lost ball back too.
You know that you're here to help people, and I keep that in mind at any moment. I'm prepared and I've developed an eye for dangerous situations. But I can also enjoy the sea, you know.
The next stop along the route is the old Hanseatic city, Wismar. The saying goes that Wismar's bays' waters are the bluest and most radiant of all to be found in the Baltic Sea. Whales used to roam its waters in the past. Today, only the name of a small island reminds of this: Whale Island. Rare bird species care for their young in the nature reserve today. Wismar's historic city centre has been declared a World Heritage Site in 2002. The cathedrals and gable-roofed buildings are reminders of the famous Hanseatic architecture and the long-gone heydays of the powerful trading league. For more than 20 years, Wismar has been Germany's largest lumber yard. The wood originates from Northern Europe and Russia and is shipped via the Baltic Sea. After the German reunification, an Austrian businessman built up the timber company on what used to be a Soviet military training ground. Every day, up to 40,000 tree trunks are processed into timber. Ships have been built in Wismar Bay for 6 decades now. The shipyard is Wismar's largest employer, providing jobs for 1,000 workers. It was modernised extensively in the 90s, but turbulent years followed. As a result of the financial crisis, the shipyard had to report insolvency in June 2009. A Russian investor pitched in for now. It is an endurance test for the workers. Sebastian Riegel is one of them. His father used to build ships here in the past. Sebastian is now hoping that his son will have the chance to continue the maritime tradition. Everything is built according to a modular system. Large sections are precast in the shed and later put together to complete a ship.
In my opinion, this is Europe's most up-to-date shipbuilding shed. We have got the latest technical equipment that is to be had. Well, there's no better place to build ships anywhere.
Metal is not a forgiving material to work with. One false move and the weld is spoilt. And even shingling is the signature of a distinguished welder. Before the year is out, the ship must be delivered. Then the cards of the shipyard's future will be redealt. Sebastian's family has always worked in this shipyard. He hopes that someday one of his sons will follow in his footsteps, though times are tough.
It makes you proud if you're able to say, my son is working in my old firm. I remember what it was like, and that is a great feeling.
The journey is leading to a crescent-shaped sand island. 30 years ago, the island was separated from the mainland during a storm. It now forms a small bay called Salzhaff, which means salty backwater in German. The backwater has become a popular spot for kite surfers. Henning Nockel has shaped the face of Germany's water sports like no other. The Globetrotter is double German champion in sailboarding and multiple runner-up in the kiteboarding championship. He is always looking for new beaches, new challenges and the perfect wave. Kiteboarding is a relatively young sport that came into being in France during the late 1990s. Sailboarders were looking for ways to make their boards fly high. Inflatable kites were the solution they found.
The Baltic Sea and the North Sea offer so many days with the right conditions to go kiteboarding. I'm telling all my buddies who I used to go sailboarding with to start kiteboarding now. I mean, they all have families and jobs these days, and if you're only off on weekends, odds to get the right weather conditions are higher for kiteboarding than for sailboarding.
The shallow coastal waters of the Baltic Sea make the Salzhaff a safe kiteboarding region. There are no surging billows and no obstacles like embankments to disrupt the perfect ride. Large parts of the backwater are so shallow that one can easily stand there too.
You can really relax if you are at sea. It's just you and your thoughts out there. No one is going to interrupt you. And you also experience nature in a different way. The cool thing about kiteboarding is the weightlessness you feel once the kite is up. You're just flying there in the air. That gives you such a feeling of freedom.
Kiteboarding isn't just a sport, it's a way of life. The clothes, the parties, the posing. The first thing Henning does every morning is check the wind. Is the breeze strong enough to go kiteboarding today? The signs were promising this morning, and Henning decided to make for the backwater. Kiteboarders are driven by their yearning for the sea, up to the brink of exhaustion.
I love it. That's all I can say about it. And if you go kiteboarding as much as I do, you hardly notice anymore just how great a feeling it is. It's really loud at sea when you're kiteboarding. There's the sound of the splash water and the hard thuds of your board as you go along. But the second you take off into the air, everything goes quiet. You don't hear the wind as much as before because it takes you flying through the air with it. You aren't fighting against it anymore.
Dieses schwerelose, ruhige in dem Moment, wenn man in der Luft ist.
However, there's no denying the fact that mankind was not designed to fly. Twisted ankles, broken wrists, and 10-meter falls off one's board are far from unusual. But passion overcomes the pain, and the hunt for setting new records, of course. The longest jump by a kiteboarder to date measured 250 meters. Henning has luckily been spared from any major accidents, but now, at 37, he is thinking about a less dangerous profession. He is sure that it will still have something to do with the sea.
I've been blessed with so many great experiences at the coast. I've had so many beautiful moments, both kiteboarding and surfing. I've seen the most amazing beaches all over the world, and the sea has become a part of me. It has made me who I am. Or maybe some people are immune to this, but I'm not.
Late summer has arrived at the backwater. The rape fields need to be harvested. The summer was warm and dry this year. These are good omen for the farmers. The harvest will be plentiful. In this enchanting corner of the German Baltic coast, the world still seems at peace. It is a place that allows one to hope that nature and humanity could exist side by side in harmony. The small port of the former fishing village Rerik lies nestled in the northeastern corner of the backwater. In the early morning, while the village is still asleep, the harbour is already bustling. Father and son are casting off and make for the Baltic Sea in their cutter. They are out to catch fish.
This has always been a tough job. And it is still today. This is not your average 8-hour job. It's more like 70, 80 hours a week. But once this life has gotten hold of you, it will never let you off the hook again.
Wolfgang Shella has been a fisherman since 1957. The only time he ever went on holiday was back in the 1970s, for the sake of his little daughter.
You have to treat the sea with the respect it deserves. But respect isn't everything, you need to love it too. I can never get enough of the sea. It looks different all the time. I look ahead and then I turn around and the light looks completely different. It amazes me.
Fishery in the Baltic Sea has changed a lot over the past 50 years. Shella's cutter is equipped with all the high-tech gadgets available today. The autopilot finds the way, the sonar detects the fish. The catch that used to be hauled aboard by muscle strength alone is today being lifted up by large hydraulic heavers.
And this is the thing that prevents a sawback these days. You see, all the fishermen my age suffer from chronic back pain. Technology is worth a lot, but all that glitters is not gold. There is no fish left these days.
When Shella started out, codfish used to be the most common fish to be caught. Then the numbers decreased dramatically. The EU put a ban on cod fishing.
When I started, I used to lay out 800 meters of fishing net, and we caught a lot. Today, we lay out 10 kilometers of net, and there is less fish in 10 kilometers of net than there used to be in my 800 meters back then.
The return to the harbour takes place with a modest catch. Only 75 kilograms were hauled aboard. The petrol alone costs them a third of the catch.
It's reaching the point now where it doesn't pay off anymore to be a fisherman. Well, I see the tradition coming to an end with my son.
In order to make a living these days, they have opened a smokehouse. Here they sell their own catch at a fair price. Father and son are up and about from 1 in the morning to 6 at night. 7 o'clock is bed rest. Their life revolves around work.
I'm always saying that the human body was created for work. I couldn't exist without my work. For me, this is a fulfilled life I'm living.
The journey carries on along the coast from Rerik all the way to Rostock. A quick pit stop at Heiling Dam. Nestled between the Baltic Sea and dense beech groves lies this coastal resort with its bright bathhouses and merchant buildings. Germany's oldest seaside resort is often referred to as the White City at the Sea. The first tourists arrived here as early as the 18th century to enjoy the fresh summer breeze. This is the city district Warnemünde. It is here that the river Warnow enters the Baltic Sea. The notorious Hotel Neptune rises right by the waterfront. State guests like Fidel Castro and Willy Brandt were put up within these walls. And so were the agents of Stasi, the secret service of the GDR. The hotel proved to be an excellent location to gather intelligence. But it's not all about holidays here. A couple of kilometers away, scientists are trying to find out what the Baltic Sea looks like from below. Professional diver Ike-Uwe Papp runs a diving station in the harbour. They specialise in complicated underwater missions. Ike-Uwe Papp is on his way to a gauging station halfway to Sweden. It provides the federal authorities with important data about the changing climate. It's a job for expert divers only.
Teamwork is everything in this job. You never go diving on your own, you're always in a team. You have to be able to work under a lot of pressure and got to be able to handle stressful situations.
Alles gut?
After 4 hours at sea, the gauging station is finally in sight. The first diver to have a look at it will be one of Ike's colleagues. The Baltic Sea is still pretty cold in summer, so all the divers will be wearing waterproof diving suits.
Helm ist geschlossen und verriegelt.
Professional diving has little in common with a leisurely drop into the sea.
This is a really tough job. Your body takes a lot of strain. You have to be physically and emotionally fit to do this.
The gauging station is constantly collecting information about the Baltic Sea. Temperature, salt content and changes in current. 20 meters of it lie below the sea's surface.
The station is a bit like a tumbler, bobbing up and down in the sea like a buoy. We are going to clean the station's entire body.
The diver will be connected to the ship throughout the entire operation with a thick cable leading down to his helmet.
This is a diver's umbilical cord. You'll get everything you need through it. Air, communication, video. The oxygen flask on his back is a safety precaution. In case of an emergency, it'll provide him with enough oxygen to get to the surface.
Compressed air rids the station of mussels and other ocean dwellers. Thanks to the live streaming from the diver's helmet camera, his every move can be supervised. The men work in 2-hour shifts, taking them to the edge of exhaustion. A safety diver is always on standby.
Dadurch, dass es ein Teamjob ist, muss sich das Team.
As I said, diving's a team effort. We plan everything together way in advance. What risk could the job hold? How are we going to minimize it? I mean, there is no way we could get rid of every danger there is, but we try our best.
Ike is up next. He's going to check for cracks with the help of an ultrasound machine. The tiniest of fissures could endanger the station. Ike has been diving since his school days. He became an undersea diver during his military service. Today, his enterprise is Germany's market leader and employed around the globe. The scuba gear is absolutely vital. He always relies on his most important piece of equipment, the helmet, his lifesaver for difficult assignments like this.
Der Helm ist für den Taucher das Wichtigste.
This is a diver's most important tool. It protects him and makes his work just so much easier. On land, the helmet weighs 12 kilograms, but underwater, it should balance out quite nicely. It's the heart of the diving gear, really.
Herzstück der Tauchersrüstung.
Helmets like this one have been around since 1975. They allow for the possibility of diving in poisoned areas, as the diver can avoid contact with the water. Ike wants to check on the welding seams, but the gauging station is completely overgrown. It will take hours to get rid of the barnacles and mussels. There is a strong undercurrent today. Ike has to be careful not to drift off. Even though the weather conditions are nice up on the boat, working underwater is a massive effort. This is the ugly side of his job, but he would never dream of quitting.
Das ist eine besondere Welt.
This is another world that I'm visiting. I'm usually floating if I'm balanced out properly. You could say that I'm in a room without gravity and without sound, apart from those noises made by the machinery and the ship. I'm in a special environment doing special work.
The undercurrent gets too strong in the evening. The weather forecast is predicting storm, even though it's not looking like it yet. The weather changes quickly out at sea. Ike Uwe has to call off today's operation for safety reasons. They will continue their work tomorrow. Tonight they will stay at sea. Ike is happy that for a change, he himself was able to go for a dive today. Waiting is part of the job description. The last leg of the route leads to the Hanseatic city of Rostock. A famous church was erected here in the 13th century, the Church of St. Nikolai, which became a symbol for the Hanseatic League's all-encompassing power at the time. She was bombed during World War II and burned out completely. Renovations only began in 1976. 3 additional floors were added to the roof of the church. Today, they are hosting 13 flats with balconies. The town winds its way along the Warnow River for about 20 kilometers. Rostock used to be the GDR's most important harbour city. Today, the city is attempting to outdo the Western German cities in the construction of cruise liners.